Hi, my name's Ben, and Connor and Steve joined me today. Today we're just going to have a quick talk. I'm going to ask them a few questions about good practice and what it means to them and what it means in coaching. Recently I've completed my youth module 1, which good practice, good coaching and what it means to the sport of football in particular was a very interesting topic, and whether I was doing it and what other coaches believed to be good coaching practice, because it always, for every coach, it means a little bit different, and we all have different views on what we perceive to be good coaching and what we perceive to be good coaching practice as well. So Connor, what do you believe, what does good coaching practice mean to you?
Well, good coaching practice to me, I think it's based around a lot of the roles and responsibilities that you see in a lot of academic stuff, people picking out roles and responsibilities, and a lot of stuff that we've been taught, particularly in our first year at university. So this is sort of things like safeguarding the children, making sure everyone's safe, and just things like being approachable, being their friend, but also being a role model, a leader, a teacher to them, because that way I feel that if you're able to interact with them more successfully, you're more able to get your point across when you are coaching, and you're able to help improve their skills as well as, I suppose, further your own coaching, become a better coach.
Okay, so in terms of that, you said obviously about being friendly, being a role model. What do you perceive to be the most important out of them then? What do you believe that your main role or your main responsibility, and do you do this in your coaching, and do you perceive that as good practice?
I think the main issue for coaches, well, not issue, I suppose, the main thing for coaches as a start, like I said, probably making sure they're safe.
Yeah.
That's got to be your number one priority at all times. If the kids aren't safe while you're coaching them, then you're not doing your job right at all. Parents won't want you to be in charge of what their children are doing, and if they're safe, you can continue your session successfully. But if they're not, then there's risk of injuries and just unnecessary stuff that doesn't need to happen.
Fantastic. So what does coaching practice mean to you, Steve?
Well, again, I think a lot of things that Connor was saying, mainly the one about safeguarding, is extremely important. However, for me, having equality within your coaching is a massive must do. I mean, you can't go in there and start treating people favourably, maybe because they support the same team as you or anything like that. That's going to damage the kids psychologically, as well as limit them in what they can do if they're being left out. I saw a really good illustration of how equality works, and everyone seems to think it's treating the same kid, each kid the exact same way. The illustration was there was a football match going on, and there was a fence, and there was a dad, an older brother and a young brother, and 3 boxes. Now the fence was quite high, and so people thought equality worked by just giving each person 1 box to stand on. But how that worked was that the dad could easily see the match. The older kid could just about get his head above the fence if he jumped, and the younger kid had no chance. Well, to me, equality is giving each person what they need to be successful. And so the next slide of the illustration showed that the dad could see without having a box, so they took that box away from him. He could still see the match. They gave 2 boxes. They gave 1 box, to the middle kid, which meant he could see more, and then 2 boxes to the younger child, which meant they could all 3 of them see the game, which is fair. Now I feel like that if we take that into a real life perspective, and you need to have that within your coaching, by all means be safe in what you do, and yes, that is, I would say most coaches should have that as the number one, otherwise they really need to look up on what they're doing. However, you need to think about what you're doing psychologically to children. I've seen coaches with favourites. They always put on their favourite kids on game day. Just because they're good, they make the coach look good. They never really cast an eye on the kids who are always on the bench. and that can be probably one of the most damaging to a kid. So yeah, treating everyone not the same, but giving them what they need to succeed, and giving them the correct encouragement.
Brilliant. I mean, I think you bring up a really interesting point there about coaches and picking teams especially. I think that's quite an apt thing in a lot of coaching. You know, you still see coaches today picking the best 11, the best 7, best 9, depending on the age groups. Especially in football, you know, a lot of coaches still believe in the mentality of win at all costs. And as coaches, that obviously isn't the main aim. Our aim as coaches is to improve players, to make players better, to get them into sport, you know, to stay into sport, whether that on foundation level, participation level, and hopefully try and progress them into elite level if they get to that stage, but obviously keep them in the sport. And obviously, if we keep picking the same players all the time, picking the best players, children work that out quite quickly. They realise quite quickly. So obviously, so would you say that's bad practice, picking the same team all the time?
I wouldn't write it off and say it's bad, because you may want to start with the same team. However, it's really when they keep the same team on, even when they're a few goals ahead, they just want to win and make the other team look terrible, and how dare they come up against your own team. But even if you just repping one player that maybe wouldn't have started each game, so you have the starters out, but one person who wouldn't, that would mean the world to them to start. And you know what, with only one player difference instead of your starting lineup, you'll probably still do just as good. It'll raise that child's confidence. He'll probably end up trying to learn more, do stuff that he maybe wouldn't have tried before. So yeah, I feel like it is an important thing that you do need to involve all the children, especially when it comes to a game day. They might work so hard in training, and then you just to deny them the opportunity, they're just not going to come anymore, are they?
No.
If they're
Do
not
you
enjoying
agree
themselves.
with what Steve's saying? Do you disagree to some
yes
extent?
and no. I mean, I think that like using the same team, that's just 100% bad practice. That
Okay.
because
Why do you believe that?
particularly at youth level, sport is about fun.
Yeah.
And keeping players in sport is going to be achieved through fun. So if you're going to start with the same 11, 9, 7, whatever age group you're at every single week, those substitutes, they're going to be thinking, well, why am I here? I'm on the bench every week. What am I doing? If you work it so that each player gets as much game time as another, as everyone else, I think that's fair. And I know a few coaches that do it, and all of the players that they've got develop fine. They're all very good players, and they're all enjoying their football.
I think it's a really good point you say. I personally believe that obviously starting with the same team week in, week out is pretty much bad practice. You can see that if you've got say you've got a squad of 9 for a 7-a-side game, you've got 2 people on the bench. Now, is the problem with starting your best 2 players on the bench? Do you think that's a problem? Do you think that's maybe good coaching practice? Or do you think that your best 2 players should always be on the field?
Not at a grassroots level. I don't think your best 2 players should always be on the field, because, like I said, it's about fun, and I think every single player should get as much game time as another.
Yeah.
And it should never be, say, with having 9 players for a 7-a-side team, you should rotate who's on the bench each week, and just bring them on at half time every time for whoever's turn it is to come off.
I agree with you on that situation about you don't have to start your best 2 players. Kids are cocky. They will know they're the best in the team. You know, they'll be talking about it. They'll be bragging about it to their mates at school and their mum when they get back home. Like, oh, guess how many goals I scored today. But one thing I slightly disagreed on about giving every single kid the same amount of time. What would you do if you had a kid who always messed about whilst it came to training, never really put any work in? Would you give him the same amount of time to a kid that was always working the hardest?
I think it would be fair. It sounds unfair, but I would give them the same amount of game time. It sounds like that would be bad practice, but I feel like if a kid is still making the effort to turn up every week, to games and training, then they should be given the same game time as somebody possibly who worked a bit harder in training.
Okay.
But
I think that's quite a good point. In terms of playing the best players, I don't know what you believe. My coaching philosophy seems to come from every player gets a chance to play as much game time as everyone else, whether they be the best player on the team or perceived to be the weakest on the team. What you tend to find is, especially with children, is that some of the players, they don't really care about the result. They just want to play.
Yeah.
So they don't care if they win 11-0, 12-0, or if they win 1-0. They just want to play football. They like to win, but once they've left that field, they're talking about something completely different. As soon as they leave that field, most children forget about it. I think a lot of people can learn from children, and the way that they just, even if they lose, it doesn't ruin their day, they carry on. So in terms of that, if you've got your best players on the bench and you go 1-0 down, say you've got 10 minutes left, 1-0 down, does then bringing your best players on, does that challenge them more than if they started at the beginning and you went 4-0 up with them on the field? Would those better players be improving if they started the game, or if they came on 1-0 down and you said, right, we're 1-0 down, go and win with the game?
It would challenge them more. I mean, that goes really without saying, because yes, they are down. It's not just a case of, everything's even, we just need to score once. They need to at least score two in that situation.
If they were if you were drawing them, and you said
we need to win.
You've got one of your best players on the bench, or you've got both your best players on the bench. Are they? The point I'm trying to make is, are those players now getting challenged more and being challenged to improve and go out there and get better, because they're, again, in a constraints environment now, they're having to improve themselves? Or if they start the game, you go 4-0 up, go, right, I can now bring them off, I can bring these players on. Because at the end of the day, players that we perceive to be weaker or stuff like that, when they're put out on that football field, they can impress you, they can improve, because once they get out there, they enjoy playing football. So if you started with your strongest players on the bench, the players on the field might surprise you or get better. And if they don't, at least they're getting game time, they're getting better because they're playing game time. And then if you are losing and you really, really want to win, you can bring on your better players, and your better players are getting challenged and having to work that little bit harder than they would have done if they were starting in the game and they went 4-0 up after 5 minutes, and then they can just coast around for the rest of the game. If you get what I mean.
Yeah.
So, just one last thing. So we were talking about, obviously, players in football. So 11 players turn up to your training session. A lot of coaches want to play even-sided games, want to play 6v6 in that case.
Yeah.
So do you see it as good coaching practice or bad coaching practice to join in yourself? It's quite a big debate that's going on at the moment. People have a lot of opinions, a lot of old school coaches. I know that when I was in school, all my teachers joined in and played. Do you think that's good coaching, bad coaching, good practice, bad practice?
I am completely against, in that type of environment, trying to join in. I would only ever say it's alright for a coach to join in if it was absolutely necessary, like as in last case scenario. In that situation, as you were saying, you wanted to play even teams, just have one net. Just say, right, okay, so one person goes in goal, we'll rotate that player every 3 minutes, shall we say, between each person. You just throw bibs out. Even teams, they can have an even-sided match and they just go to the same goal. I know it's not like a complete goal game environment, sorry, but you know what, it's better than you joining in. I don't know, what are your thoughts on it?
I wouldn't say I was totally opposed to a coach joining in, because I know personally I feel like I would have enough constraint to not just completely take out one of the kids, and I think I'd be able to just play at a level that they're comfortable with. But I don't. If I didn't have to, I wouldn't. Like particularly in that situation, I feel rather than joining in, I'd select one player as sort of like a floating player who's on both teams, whoever has got the ball at the time, and we can rotate that player around.
Yeah.
So it's 5v5, but when you get the ball, you get a sixth man, almost.
So obviously, I know Steve, you don't do much football coaching.
No.
I know football's something that
I'm not
it's not really into. But obviously, when you coach football, you watch a lot of football. And obviously, the question goes out to both of you: do we have to play even-sided games? Do we need 5v5? Is football or any sport, rugby? Is it always an even-sided game? Is the benefits to playing 6v5? What could some of the benefits be? Would it be good coaching practice if you had 11 players to find other ways of coaching instead of having to we need specifically to have an even-sided game?
Yeah. No, there is a lot of games and situations which football coaches will use where you will be playing a small number of people against a larger number of people. So it might even be down to something like 2 against 5 or something like that, because that's the sort of thing where you're able to develop things like if the team with less players has the ball, where you can develop their movement, their passing, picking the right things, decision making, and if they're defending, how are they going to deal with being like 2-on-1. I mean, that's something that happens quite a lot nowadays in football, particularly on the wings. Fullbacks getting completely isolated when the opposing fullback overlaps the winger, and it's very difficult to deal with. So working on that sort of thing in training and having multiple players coming up against a few, it can really develop them in a big way, I think.
Yeah.
As long as you rotate the players who are on the smaller side of the team.
I think there's a lot of benefit. Obviously, taking football as an example, but in rugby as well, I think it's very rare that you'll get an even-sided. If it's not 1v1, I think it's very rare that you're going to get an even-sided, like you said there with your wing-backs and your wingers, or in the middle of the field, you've always got 2v1, 3v1, 3v2. So I think there's a lot of, I think what becomes an issue is a lot of coaches think it's good practice to do it in drills. Oh, it's fine, we're going to do 3 versus 4 today in this drill. But then when it comes to a game situation, they start to panic and start going, oh no, we need an even-sided game or the game's not going to work. So I think, especially in your coaching, as for me personally, is good practice that not per se drills, but your games-based sessions.
Yeah.
So either a whole part whole approach or an actual games-based approach needs to be that the games that you're doing before your actual match at the end is linked into the game, so they can see where that part of the game is going to fit into the actual match at the end. Yeah. So therefore, if you've got a 3 versus 2, there's nothing wrong with making it 6v5 at the end, 7v4, because if a player gets sent off, you're going to get that anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any last points?
Just saying about how odd numbers in training sessions is actually really good. I'm going to use an example of rugby. Very, very often you have 2v3, 3v4, and really it's good for both sides, because in rugby it's really all about spacing. The idea is that the people with less numbers on their side will try and pass around people with the most. However, it's actually quite a good drill for the side that's favoured with numbers, because if everyone just thinks, oh, we're the strongest side here, and rushes to get the ball, that's going to create space all over on one side, and they're just going to pass it back and run up the wing. So yeah, I feel that actually having odd numbers for a training session, and especially a games approach to it, that will be a really, really good way of having one of your coaching sessions not be set back by having fewer players than you imagined, or maybe one extra, say someone comes and joins your training session for the first time?
Brilliant, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the discussion. As you can see, good coaching practice varies depending on the coach, depends on the sport, what people perceive. You know, good coaching practice, bad coaching practice. There's certain things that we know are very bad coaching practice, but when it comes to good coaching practice, some people see a grey area and some people see black and white. Thank you very much for listening.